Share with viewers real quick about the founding back, I think you said 2001, and what prompted that? Was it the Department of Education saying we need this, or is someone approaching the Department of Education with the grant? What was the brainchild behind that?
I think it was a discussion between two groups, that a group decided that, yeah, there is a severe shortage, and we think there might be a way to do this, and we're not getting enough career changers into the classroom. And then the Department of Education said, well, we're putting this requirement that every teacher has to be 100% highly qualified,
right.
So we better have some programs to help states actually reach that goal.
Yes.
So together they came together, they formed this organization, and then we kind of went through a couple of changes over the last couple of years where we are today. So initially it was considered a little bit political as an organization. 2 years ago all that changed when a new board came on board. They installed me as the president, and we said, no, we're just here to solve a problem, and that problem is the teacher shortage.
That is tremendous, Dave. And
yeah.
Of course, you've got folks from all over the country I saw involved in the board
yes.
that are really committed to making a difference there. And obviously, when you all are stepping out, some of the other states that you've gotten involved with or particularly focused on right now, are there states before South Carolina?
There are. Idaho was one of the first, and Pennsylvania.
Good.
And then New Hampshire, Mississippi, Utah, and then Florida is our biggest state. I mean, they need 30,000 teachers a year.
Is that right? The state of Florida?
Yes. And so they're up here recruiting. They're all throughout the country recruiting. If you look at the three big states, Florida, Texas, and California, they're really trying to steal teachers from everywhere. So, you know, if you think of it as kind of a closed system where there was only a finite number of teachers throughout the United States, and you think about these three big states pulling all these teachers, it's no wonder that states like South Carolina are saying, wow, we're certainly having trouble filling every position.
Yes, yes, yes. Are you finding ways, are there some key areas, you know, we talked about the military.
Yeah.
Folks coming out of the military. What a great opportunity to highlight the men and women of our armed services who could think about teaching now after a 20-year career, possibly in the Army or in the Navy or even the Marines.
Yeah. And they actually have a grant. There's a transition to teaching grant that will actually pay for all of the fees for our program.
That's $650 and any other fees.
So
that's tremendous.
If they go through the transition to teaching program, or not the troops to teachers program,
right.
The troops to, there's too many TTTs. There is, if they go through the troops to teachers program, it fully pays for military as they transition out of the military into the civilian world to become a teacher. There's also a spouses to teacher program that's just getting started as well, because if you think about jobs that the spouses of our military can take, teaching is one of them.
Right.
And with our program, since they can get certified anywhere in the world, we actually have 2 women right now in Germany who are working on a program that are going to come back and teach in Pennsylvania. They can get all of their requirements done before they get stationed back in Pennsylvania.
Tremendous.
So it helps them as well that we can help our spouses as well. So there's 2 big programs that we work well with.
As a graduate of the Naval Academy, had you thought while you were there, even earlier in life, that you would get into education later on or at some point?
I did.
Obviously, you said engineering was something you had under your belt. Had you thought about education?
Yes, I had. And I originally, as I moved into education, first through Kaplan Test Prep and then through this organization, I had. And since I graduated in '83, a lot of my classmates are thinking about now retiring and getting into teaching.
Right,
so I do. I get calls probably every month from somebody saying, hey, are you in my state yet? Because I really want to do this. And we do. It's interesting because you can teach in private schools and charter schools.
Good.
In other areas. So we have certified teachers in almost every state. I think 48 states right now have a certified teacher by us. And we have candidates working all over the world on the program that are looking to come back to here in the United States.
Just 40 folks on staff. That's got some folks spread out. I mean, you're obviously, of course, you're based in the D.C. area and down here in the Palmetto State last week and this week and traveling all around. It gets you on the road a good bit.
It does. And it's very exciting, though, because when you find people like the South Carolina legislature and the South Carolina Department of Education that are really focused on looking for ways to solve problems, and you can help them solve problems, it really is a fun job.
For viewers, I think you highlighted that. Just say it again real quick, Dave. What are some of the qualifications that our viewers would need to have to possibly get accepted into the program, assuming they could come up with the $650? What are some of the qualifications they need to have to be received into the program?
They have to have a bachelor's degree. They have to pass a background check. And they have to be ready to study. I mean, they have to dedicate some time to this. Most of our teacher candidates are working on this at nights and on weekends.
So they can do it while they're continuing their other jobs, right?
Almost all of our candidates are continuing their jobs whether they're a stay-at-home mom who is now getting ready to go back into the teacher workforce, and it's a program that really works well for them. And a lot of moms think about that. They're saying, okay, my kids are getting older now, but I still want to have a schedule that meets to their schedule. So teaching is a great way for them to say, okay, now it's time to get back in the workforce. But yes, it's something you can do while you're still working, while you're still doing whatever you're doing, and then you have to be a very self-starter to say, okay, I'm gonna take this curriculum, I'm going to work through that curriculum, study hard, and then take my exams.
That's tremendous. That is tremendous. There's so many great questions we can get into, and as you think back to some of the informational sessions you all did last week in South Carolina, give viewers a sense of what it was like, let's say, last Tuesday. I think you were down, was it down in Charleston?
Yes.
Last Tuesday. What happened down there? And you were down there last Tuesday?
I was. And what we do is we do them on the hour, and people come in, and the first session we had about 25, 30 people there. And it was all just like our normal person that comes out. The average age was about 40, and we had about half the people in that room were male. And a lot of the questions were, okay, they were more concerned with, does South Carolina really accept this? And, okay, we've just heard about this, and since it's new, if I call the Department of Education, are they going to really tell me this? And we've worked very strongly with the Department of Ed, and they've worked out some incredible systems to make sure that everything and everybody's trained on the program and knows it's coming. So those were, I think, some of the concerns. And then just, will schools hire them? You obviously don't want to go through a program if the school's not going to hire you. So, and that's something, that sometimes a principal may have plenty of teachers. And so, if you're in a wealthy, affluent suburb, you're going to find it harder because there's probably a waiting list of teachers. But if you're in more of a rural area which struggles to find a math teacher, one of our star math teachers in Dietrich, Idaho, is a farmer, and he was in Dietrich, Idaho. It was an extremely small town, and the math teacher was retiring, and they didn't have anybody else, and they only had one math teacher in the school. They asked him to do it. He saw our program, went through the program, and now Dietrich, Idaho still has a math teacher. So, but without our program and without him, they don't have math. So the same thing around here. If you look for the schools that are really struggling to hire, you're definitely going to find a job. And also, even in some of the other areas, we have some people that say, well, you're 40 years old, you know how to work, you know how to get started, you're going to be faster on the job. So we found a lot of our candidates have a very easy time finding a job. So we kind of talked them through that. The best thing they can do is start volunteering in their school. Really get to know students. At the same time, really make sure that teaching's right for them. If you can do a little substitute teaching, make sure that teaching's right for you. At the same time, then you're going to get to know the principal of that school. You're going to get some good experience. You're going to be a little bit more ready and probably have an easier time finding a job. That's a great point. Of course, you're in a difficult position because obviously we're trying to reach the most people. Charleston, Columbia, Greenville, but as you said, it's principally rural areas that may have a real dearth, a real need for teachers. And so reaching out to the rural areas, for instance, even here in our viewing area, in the PD and southeastern North Carolina, but particularly in the PD and down here on the Strand, where there's quite a bit of rural area and I'm sure a dramatic need. So we're excited to have the opportunity to get you in, and of course for our viewers who are truly looking for potentially making a difference and changing their lives. And we find it's better for homegrown. I mean, if you have somebody from this area who gets into teaching as opposed to trying to import somebody from Michigan who's never been down in this area that may or may not like it, it's a lot better, and there's probably a lot more staying power and retention if we can get somebody locally who has that expertise to come into teaching rather than try to maybe import somebody from outside the state. So, and you highlighted that, of course, the South Carolina, the folks moved quickly. They did. And they recognized this. Who are some of the folks you're working with, and that when you go into a state, are you meeting almost always first with the Department of Education, the head of the Secretary of Education in this instance, Dr. Rex? Yes. We did. We started working with him. At the same time, we met with Speaker Harrell down in Charleston. And then all the education chairs on both the Senate and the House side. And met with the governor's education person. So it's kind of those initial meetings that then formulate, okay, here's the strategy of what we have to do to get accepted in South Carolina. And is there a willingness and is there a shortage? And that's where we really started to see, okay, there's a lot to work with here. And then it's a matter of then crafting a bill together to give the best bill and the best program available for South Carolina, and that's what we did. Mm-hmm. And then towards the end, just making sure that we can honcho it through and make sure that the legislation got passed, which it did in June, and the governor signed it right away. And then it's come back and sit down with the department and make sure that we can implement this.
Right, right.
And I got to tell you, I work with a lot of departments, and once again, this is one of the best departments of education that I've worked with. I mean, it was very clean, it was efficient and sharp, and so it was just really it's a pleasure to work with them.
That's great, Dave.
To get this done.
I'm sure many of the folks in the sessions, the informational sessions there in the Midlands, the Upland, and down in the Low Country, interested in making sure you all are around, are going to be around for a long time.
Yeah.
The Department of Education is thoroughly behind this, and do you all also ever go out and solicit funds, try to raise dollars to help make sure that a program like this can continue to grow?
Yes, our current grant extends through 2008.
Great.
And then the fees that we generate, because all of our costs have been covered by the U.S. government up to this point, the fees that we generate cover our future costs, and then we just got a follow-on grant from the Department of Education that really solidifies us for the long term.
Great.
We're also just getting ready to launch a scholarship program to solicit more funds.
I was about to ask if there's anything that folks could do if they couldn't afford the $650.
And we do get people to ask that probably every session, that just say, well, are there scholarships available? So we're just getting ready now to put that together where we'll raise funds and develop that scholarship fund so we can get even more people through it and make sure that money is no object here, that if you've got the expertise and you've got the passion, that money doesn't hold you up from getting into the classroom.
The story of the farmer in Idaho is an exciting one. Any other great nuggets of that as we wrap up, examples that you've seen since its inception early on or since you've been involved?
Yeah, all the way along. We have a woman who actually has 2 special needs children of her own.
Right.
And she volunteered in the school and worked there forever, and then just decided, well, you know, who better to teach special education than me?
Right.
And she went through the program, and now she's teaching. We don't do special education here, but also one of our first graduates was a Naval Academy graduate who got out of the military and then went to work for McDonnell Douglas as an engineer and just decided, I'm just not cut out for corporate life. And then decided he wanted to go teach math, and he's teaching math in inner city Philadelphia, and he was so good they made him the department chair after 1 year. So now, after just 1 year of teaching, he's the department chair. But he brings all those real-world experiences. When he talks about math problems, he brings in things he worked on at McDonnell Douglas or things he saw in the Navy that he tries to really make math come to life. And that's what, if we're trying to develop the next mathematicians and scientists and engineers in this country, we need people that really bring it to life. And we need everybody that can teach, that really has that passion for kids.
Those are great words. Dave, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thank you.
Sorry we're running out of time.
No, that's great. It was a great conversation.
Another time. Stay tuned to more Carolina People with Dave Saba coming up next. If you don't remember anything else this morning, get this down, abcte.org, abcte.org. Critical, the American Board for Certification of Teacher Excellence. Get it right, abcte.org. There's also a great toll-free number, 877-669-2228. Think about that. 2 million new teachers will be needed by 2014 in U.S. schools. 2 million new teachers by 2014. Take the time, learn more about the American Board Certification for Teacher Excellence, abcte.org.